Thank you for joining. This is going to be more of a conversational approach. I don't really like the overly rehearsed webinars, but there's also some interaction if you have specific questions. The main thing I'm going to focus on are 7 distinct pieces of media, 7 videos that every company or brand, if it's your personal brand or if it's a consultancy business, whatever, should be running. The main reason why is, and a lot of this stuff comes from a book called They Ask, You Answer. In that book, the main thing that's being talked about is how customers are often confused about what your product or service offering is, and they don't know what to do next. Things that you would think are obvious or, evident are not to them. So I'm just going to jump right into this, and this is just going to be an informational piece, but really quickly, just to give you background on who I am. I'm a filmmaker and a story designer, so I use video all the time. And even me, having the ease and convenience of creating content daily, I don't take my own medicine. So this book really transformed the way I approach marketing, and specifically I'm taking an inbound approach, which essentially just means I'm giving information wherever I can. So the sole objective of this particular seminar or this webinar is to hammer home that really the point that I want you to take away with is to answer questions that your customers are asking, but that no one else in your industry is answering. So when you think about your web presence, or when you think about how people interact with you or how they get information about what you are offering and how much you charge, you have got to consider these 7 dimensions. These 7 videos will help you answer their questions, and so you don't have to keep repeating it. And the other main reason I'll mention this is that the statistic for how many people or how many pages people visit while they're on your website, how much do you think that is? Even if you have only a few pages, how many times do you think people click on your website on average before they make a phone call, before they interact with you? Let's get some numbers. So when someone goes to your website, how many pages do you think they click around on? How many times do you think they click on those pages? 3? Okay, 7. 10's not bad. Okay, 1, 2. So it's actually like more than 20. They spend an exorbitant amount of time. Customers spend an exorbitant amount of time researching products and services before they engage. They don't want to pick up the phone. This is staggering because we have this expectation that customers just want to get to the point, and they do, but they don't want to talk to a salesperson. Sales has kind of pushed us out and made us uncomfortable with the process of selling, because they know they're not going to get information answered. They're going to the salesperson's trying to close the deal. If I call a company and I get a salesperson, do I really believe that they're going to answer my questions honestly? If I say, is this the right solution for me? And they go, oh, of course it is. Of course it is. But I haven't told you what my problem is yet. Right. So this has been ingrained in us because of the sales culture and people trying to close. Most people now are doing research prior to even engaging, because they want to be able to do that on their own time and not be bothered or be pushed. So what you are basically doing here by creating these videos is allowing people the opportunity to review what your products and services are and get information about them before they even touch it. Now, this can be anything. This can be, you can sell widgets, or you can sell writing services. You can be an attorney or a plumber. All of these things, you have some kind of product package or service package. If you don't, you should start to build them, because it's much easier for the human mind to be able to process what your offer is. So the first video, the first thing we're going to talk about is the product and services page video. So all that means is, as you have products and services, you should have some video explaining what the benefit is to your client, what problem it solves, and why they need it. So those are the 3 things. And it can look anything like, if you've got a funnel page or a splash page. This is actually for a white paper that we offered about why anti-harassment training doesn't work. I've got to have a video in there that's a summary of some of the case study. It's a reason why I want them to download the white paper. But you should always have some kind of explanation for why you're asking them to put your name in. One thing I've also seen that's pretty clever is that they have this meta reflection on the fact that you're going to sign up and put your name and email address in, meaning, oh, you want me to give my, my name and email. What are you going to do with that? And then the person basically is like, we're going to send you one email to confirm, and then we're going to give you the video or give you the downloadable, and put a tag on you so that if anything like this comes up in the future, in a couple months, we'll just send you that reminder, but you're not going to get spammed. You're not going to get overloaded. So you're helping to build confidence and trust with that prospect. Okay. So this is the first video, pretty straightforward. I will add that as you're designing things that highlight the products and the services, to also include maybe even your processes. So one thing that's really complicated for me is, as a consultant, it's a media consultant. Consultant is like a BS word. It doesn't really mean anything unless, I attach, what am I consulting about? Or what is the end deliverable of my consulting? So a question I often would get from customers is, hey, like, I know you do all this training stuff and you design these things, but what do I get? Like, what's the thing that I get? And I'd be like, oh, you get salute. I talk this like big, vague background. And really what I needed to say is, well, I give you a 25-page document that outlines what the actual learning design approach is I would recommend. It includes wireframes of what the instructional design will look like. It includes a mood board for some of the actual video content, so you can get a sense of what the feel and the tone is. Is it funny? Is it sad? Even give character breakdowns of who's going to be in the story, a story summary. All those things are included in that. And I try to even if me explaining it now to you here, it's still hard to visualize. So I can do a better job of trying to show them and actually have the booklet and flip through it and be like, it's going to be this. This is what I deliver. This is what you're paying for. And here's the reason why you want to pay for it, is because now you know what's involved, the scope of the project, and really how much it's going to cost you. A lot of times consultants will come in and say, well, I don't know how much it's going to cost you. And that's true until they get into it, but then they should have a very clear sense of what the price is. If a plumber walks into a house with water damage and says, okay, this is what's going to cost you to fix all of these pipes. I know the cost of a length of pipe. I know what's going to be involved in the man hours. I can now see, but I got to come in there and look. You're doing the same exact thing for your customers, but give them a breakdown of what this is. The second thing I'll say about this particular aspect, right, of breaking down your products and services, is to focus on their benefits and not their features. This is something I want to spend a tiny bit of time on because it's one of the biggest barriers as a business owner. And even though I know this, I had this conversation with my business partner a few months ago where I was like, what are some of the benefits over the features? And he knows the difference. But when we start to try to vocalize them, they fall flat. So a feature is something that is a technical parameter of your product or service. It's like, I have a really fast computer to edit on. Okay, so I can give you the specs of what that computer contains. But what's the benefit? The benefit to a customer can be anything from, well, my machine is reliable, so you'll get your footage backed up and safe and you won't lose anything. The benefit could be speed to market. So it's because it's so fast, I can cut quicker and export videos faster than normal. But do you see how that's speaking the language of what the customer wants, not what I have? It's really difficult, but if you can get into the habit of converting your features to benefits, customers are far more responsive. The benefits are like peace of mind or these intangible things that help relieve their stress and address their problem. But we tend to talk about features because we think they're cool and they're significant, but it doesn't always translate. Okay, the second video is what they call the 80% video. So when you think about the questions that your sales team answers, there's like 5 to 10 of them that they regularly have memorized. In fact, it becomes so memorized that they sound robotic and overly rehearsed. If you make a video that answers those 5 to 10 questions in that video, imagine how much time that saves your salespeople. It's like, hey, go watch this video. Oh, you got questions? Like, here, before we meet. So they are scheduled for a call. Rather than working on getting them up to speed on the 80% of the questions, answer those questions prior to that call. So, if I'm an attorney and I deal with, family law or estate law, what are the basic questions that somebody has before they come in? Don't waste my free consultation on answering those questions. Give that to them before. They even send them a message, say, hey, to make the most of our meeting, I have this 3-minute long video, and I'd like you to watch it. It answers most questions, and then we can actually come in and have our meeting. This frees up your time, saves you an enormous amount of time, and you can do this for anything. If you're a copywriter, what's the difference? What are you dealing with people that aren't familiar with your field? What are some of these questions that you can answer up front? So the task for you is to come up with, what are the questions that you are asked 80% of the time? What are the 5 to 10 questions that people ask you over and over and over again? So think about that. Any questions so far? Okay, another thing I want to point out too is this 80% video may be 10 minutes long, and that's okay. You make the video length as long as it needs to be. No longer nor no shorter. And I know that sounds really, nebulous, but it's really important to just like let things breathe. Don't have these metrics. Like for the longest time, I kept in my head thinking like this stat about how most people watch videos that are 90 seconds to 2 minutes long. And in my brain, I was like never making a video longer than 2 minutes. And this is not healthy. But one cool tip you can do is in YouTube, they have these chapter markers that you can actually create. You can break them up. So let's say this person has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9-ish chapter markers. Each of those is a question that they are answering in this 80% video. So same, right? You've got 10 segments. You can do this. You can do the exact same thing. Each one gets a segment, but it's a really nifty way for people to jump directly to what they want. Like, let's say I'm a retailer for electronics, and I've got this whole thing about what kind of camera should you buy? What kind of DSLR? And in some ways I'm reviewing the main benefits of this camera. I can talk about the camera body. I can talk about the media that's required and the kind of cards I would recommend. I can talk about the lens choices that fit with this and the things that are high end and medium end and low end. So all that is an opportunity to use these chapter markers. Okay. Next video is the claims we make, and the proof is in the pudding, or in this case, the proof is in the flan. It's hard to find good flan these days. But I will say that this video specifically is to back up what you state in your website copy, or things like our customers, or we have the best customer service, or whatever. All of those are claims that you're making. What are you stating to the customer, and how can you support that? How can you show that? So the thing is, you'll find very quickly 2 things happen. One is claims that you've been making for a long time have no validity, such like our customer service is world-class. What the hell does that even mean? Right? Like I can't prove that. And also I have to buy your product and experience your customer service in order to know and to feel confident that it is world-class. And by then it's too late for me. So you immediately find that that's not a convincing argument. The second thing you realize is it's very difficult to show some of the things and support some of the things that you're claiming. But I'll tell you, the tip is, when you make this claims we make video, you're taking all the things that you tell customers that you believe are going to convert them to your side and convert them to a purchase, but you have to show them. So if you are a copywriter, or you're a novelist, and you're talking about like how you are able to really write content that the market wants, you're showing examples, videos of you interacting with the publishers and how happy they are. They're smiling as they read your brief, right? Like you're doing the things, and you're just play acting at this point. If you are in an industrial, metal manufacturer, you can go and show how the products are, the actual processes of the people working that line. Show that. That's all you got to do, is demonstrate what you're doing. So if you can turn around metal products at rapid speed, show how fast that process goes. That it's 8 a.m. The people come into work. So people come into work, then you get them filing through, knocking out all the work, getting it packaged up and shipped off on the truck by 3 p.m. Right? So immediately now you've demonstrated what the claim is and you're backing it up, but you have to just show it. And if you show it, to be honest, even if it doesn't feel completely authentic, like the exchange with the publisher, it's more than most people are doing on their websites and through their media content. It makes a huge difference. All right, next one, team bios. So when you're thinking about this is something that has been kind of debatable. Like some people are like, I don't really want to know who's on the staff. When you make a team video, you're really achieving 3 things. you're describing who that person is and what their function is in the organization. You're sharing something personally aspiring to that, what keeps them motivated and their goals in working at the industry they're working at. And then you kind of have some kind of personal link of something that they do as a hobby or outside of work. So as you're going through this process, I just want you to keep in mind, you're trying to describe the function of the person, the tasks that they perform at the company, right? So I'm Richard Fleming. I'm a film director and story designer. So at Sage Media, I am the one who comes up with the storylines, the plots, and I actually design all of the characters and I write the scripts. And then when I'm on set shooting, I'm actually directing talent, making sure the lighting looks right, and I'm organizing the entire show. So by the time that the film is shot, I'm also helping to review with an editor. I'm the one in charge of making sure that that vision that the client wants comes to fruition. I then share my aspiration. The reason I do all of this and why I'm passionate about working at the company I'm working at is because I want to transform how adult learning is done. I think stories can change the world. I have actual evidence, neuroscience evidence of this, and I want people to radically change how learning is done because it sucks right now, and I think it can be phenomenally better. Something I do outside of work, I watch movies. Okay, so like tons of movies, like weird movies. Like if you want a film recommendation, come ask me. I'll make sure to match something that you like. So this is my little bio video right now in a little encapsulated piece. Do the same thing for you. Describe the tasks that you perform at the company specific to what your prospect or customer would be dealing with. So, Richard's going to write the scripts for me. I don't have to write the scripts. Yep, I do that. That's my function in the company, right? Then share your work aspirations. What are your goals? What are your hopes? And then mention something casual that you do outside. Okay, pretty self-explanatory. The thing I would do with that is I would embed that in your signature of your email. Once you have that up. Now, I've got a couple different suggestions I'll make on this. Is you can actually have the video itself. Sometimes it can take up space depending on how long it is. And that could be bothersome for security, or if people have a really aggressive spam filter, they can sometimes look at that as spam. But I would try this anyway. And you can even create GIFs that have the subtitles on it so people can read it. This actually moves. So if you get an email from me, you'll see this play. And this is basically me saying, well, hey, you can get stories just like this. Like you want to embed these videos in your email so people know who they're talking to and why they're talking to you. All right, next video is cost and pricing. I get a lot of beef with this one, especially being in video production, because video production costs are crazy. They vary wildly. The thing I want to mention, though, is it's really frustrating for a customer to try to find out if you're even the right fit. And if you don't have your cost and pricing clear and sensible, they're going to bail. So have a video that explains what your cost is or your pricing model is, so they understand what they're getting into. Try to have it, you're really trying to create clarity. It's not about competition or like your competition seeing it and being like, well, we're going to steal their pricing. If you're doing something truly unique, even as a commodity, if you have a unique aspect of your commodity, which you likely do because you're in business and you're successful, you don't want to worry about how the cost of pricing factors into that. You want to aim for clarity, give people clarity so that they understand what they're getting into. Okay, so this is the social proof aspect of it. This is the like testimonial, if you will. I call it a customer journey because I think it's really important to show where a customer has been prior to getting up to where you are, and then after that. If you've read Donald Miller's How to Build a Story Brand, he talks a lot about this, hero's journey, but using the customer as the hero. A lot of businesses want to be the hero themselves, but really, you're not the hero as the business owner. You are the elixir or the magic sword they pull from the stone. You are the thing that solves their problems on their journey. So you're trying to find out, well, where is your customer struggling? And then what would be different in their lives if they met you and utilized the skills that you have? So the framework I use to create these stories is very specific. The first one is you want to start with the problem, then you want to move into the journey, and then you want to move into the solution. What this means is that you're identifying what the problem is that the client is experiencing and suffering from? What is problematic, which is why they set out on this quest to begin with. The journey describes what they've done so far that's not really working, but it's sensible, makes you think like, well, I don't see why it wouldn't work, but it's not working. The solution is where you come into place, and you are the one who is fixing the problem. That's where things start to really radically shift. And within the solution, you're also pointing out some of the metrics, some of the measurable things that you've done to improve their lives. So an example is recently of a client I've had. They've been dealing with 26% turnover. A fifth of that, 20% of those people leave within the first 30 days. So this is a massive problem. They cannot keep people working at their clinic. Okay, so that's the issue. They cannot keep people. That's the problem. The journey is that they tried all these different consultants. They've done all of this training, but the consultants gave them this canned response. The training does not work at all. People are still leaving. So they're spending money, lots of money, to try to retain people, and nothing's working. So we produced some videos for them that they embedded in the training that they currently have, and it lowered their turnover to under 7%, which is actually like unheard of in the medical field. So that's the solution of what we did. So we've got this measurable thing. We reduced turnover, right, by 19% or whatever, because of the things that we did in these specific media pieces, the films that we built. They emotionally hooked the new hires in and kind of gave them a no BS look at what they would be getting into. So we set the expectations pretty high. So if you're a new hire and all you hear is, oh, the hospital's great, like it's awesome to work here, and then you get in there and you got people slapping you and spitting on you and screaming and all this stuff that's going on in the tumultuous nature of the medical space, it's a little bit alarming, and your expectations are now not being met. But if you come in being like, it's a war zone, but only the people who are absolutely committed are going to make it, you make a choice. And that happens to work. So that's what we did. But this is the framework: problem, journey, solution. I'm going too fast. Please let me know. The last video, this is actually an 8th video. I'm just throwing it in here because it's something that I didn't really see mentioned in the Selling 7, which is the They Ask You Answer methodology. Would highly recommend the book, but this is a really nice summary. Are You a Good Fit is a video that I think is useful to push buttons and to get people to start thinking about making that decision. I mentioned in the prior slide that we have, when people have their expectations set and they have to commit, it makes a difference. And in fact, having them make a commitment, they regret less about making that commitment. But when you keep giving them options, they'll hem and haw, and it'll go on indefinitely. So having a video, having some kind of questionnaire that shows people, are you a good fit or not, is really useful, because again, it also frees up your time. You're basically saying, I don't want to waste your time, and I don't want you wasting mine. So if you are someone who is a penny pincher, who doesn't like to spend money on actually changing their company culture, I don't want to work with you, right? We have a $15,000 minimum limit to engage with our consultancy. If you think $15,000 is too much money to understand what your real problem is, I don't want to work with you. So these are things that I want you to internalize and do for your own business. If you're someone who doesn't value pros, I don't want to be a copywriter for you. If you're someone who doesn't understand the financial repercussions or ramifications of not hiring an attorney during your divorce, well, I don't want to work with you. So all of these things, right? You keep giving them evidence to jump off. And this is really important. So just think of things that would be a real deal breaker for you, and just be blunt. I think one of the things that businesses don't do well is that they are so afraid of being like, well, I don't want anyone to object to me or be upset with me, or I want to be open to the widest possible net. It doesn't work. You have to actually commit to something. And this is part of building your brand voice. Your brand voice is really where you start to say, this is the kind of person I want to engage with. And if I'm loud and obnoxious and you don't like loud and obnoxious, then we're not going to be a good fit. And I don't want you to come sit in my seminar. People that love Gary Vee or hate Gary Vee, right? That's why there's the split. But the one thing I'll say is he's figured out that the people that love him, they're coming to his seminars. Why would he want someone who hates him coming to his seminars? Just because he has some good content? That's not a good fit. And so I think that it's really important for us as business owners to be very clear about the kinds of customers that we want, because all that you're really doing now in today's day and age of inbound marketing is you're connecting people to the product that is best suited for them, the product or service that's best suited for them. So if I am in the market for a backpack, show me the backpack that's going to make me happy, that I'm going to be ecstatic about. That's all you're doing. You don't have to convince me that a shitty backpack is somehow better for me, or that a really expensive, high tier one is better for me, when that's not what I'm looking for. Match people with the product and service that they want. And this is the best way to do that. All right, let's talk about some video production stuff, because we've been mentioning video and I'm talking about doing this all as video, but there are a couple objections that people have to using video, and I want to address them here. I also want to answer any questions. So if there are questions, by all means, put them in the chat. The first slide here you can see is lights. And the reason I mention this is because so often I see videos that don't have any intentional lighting, and lighting has a whole host of impacts on mood and information that's revealed. So I want you to start thinking about, as you're setting up your videos, what is the lighting situation? What can you use? And you don't have to necessarily go out and buy lights. I think, and I'm just going to speak for my own self, I think that I'm well lit now because I'm using a really large frontal source from a window, and you can see that the light naturally falls off as it goes off into the distance, and this feels natural and good and aesthetically pleasing to us. So it doesn't have to be very expensive. I don't know, maybe you hate the way this looks right now, but I think it's important for us to start thinking about light and the way it interacts with our subjects. There are so many YouTube tutorials out there that talk about basic 3-point lighting system. 3-point lighting system is when you use 3 lamps or 3 light surfaces to sculpt an interview setup. So you have a key light, which is the main source of light. You have a fill light, which varies the contrast on the face. And then you have what they call a rim light or a kicker, which is it's a light that's hidden back and high, and it highlights places in the shadow detail. So really, in this case, I only have a key light, but because it's so wide and soft, I don't need the rest of it. I have separation from the background, and the shading is fine. I don't need it darker or lighter than this. But these are things that, just to start thinking about, like, it adds a level of professionalism and gloss that you really want for a lot of your videos. Obviously, like, for certain things, if you're doing TikTok videos and you're just trying to get content out, don't worry too much about the production value there. But it's important for you to consider, like, how visible, like, am I losing information as a result of this? This is the same conversation I would have with when you're picking your cameras. It doesn't have to be super high end. You can use an iPad or you can use an iPhone. That's fine. The thing you want to do with these is you want ample amounts of light because they respond much better when it's really, really bright. So iPhone specifically, the sensors don't do super well. You can take photos in low light, but videos of very different animal. If you've ever been at a restaurant and you're trying to take a picture and it looks decent and you flip over to video and you notice it gets really dark and grainy, that's because the camera sensor cannot handle that low of light. So when you're thinking of your cameras, if you're going and buying cheap cameras, it's fine. You just need more light to compensate for the cheap sensor. Last thing, instead of action, we've got audio, which is to say that the on-camera microphone from your phone or iPad is not sufficient. If you're going to spend any real money on doing some internal videos, you're going to want to have a microphone that is higher end. This is actually the most amount of money I spent out of all of my production gear was when I bought audio equipment. And the reason being is that it's unforgivable for people to listen to bad audio. They will deal with a crappy looking image, but they will not be okay with hard to understand or hard to hear audio. So this is just one of those pieces of information I think is really important. Are there specific questions about production that you have that you would like answered? Go ahead and put them in the chat. I'm not going to talk about editing software because it's just beyond the scope, but I think the main thing I want to convey with the video stuff. Okay, here's one. So I don't feel comfortable being on camera. So I used to do a lot of photography, a lot of like portrait photography. And I had maybe 10 to 15 minutes to build rapport with people who really did not get their pictures taken very often. I had a spiel, and one of the spiel sentences would be that being photogenic is a skill. It's something you practice. It's why selfie culture has taken off, because people continue to practice taking poses and pictures of themselves, and they improve. They get that biofeedback. They improve how they emote, their expressions. They're more familiar with their face and how it moves. So similarly, that's all you would be doing. When you get in front of a camera, you want to get more familiar with being in front of a camera. If you feel uncomfortable speaking on camera, that just means that you have to be on camera a lot more. And as weird as that sounds, the piece of advice I will give you that will change everything is you don't ever stop talking. So when you are on camera and you are doing something and you mess up, you just keep going. You don't stop and go, wait, hang on, that wasn't right. You can do all that later. And unless you're doing like a live thing, which don't worry about that, just practice right now with videotaping. Sit in front of a camera and then just talk. And so when we're doing these 80% videos, for example, you're going to answer these 5 to 10 questions. Write down the questions that you're going to answer. You don't have to write down the responses, just answer them. And you're going to get really, really comfortable with that process. And you're going to also, as you watch it back, you're going to be looking for things that interfere with that intelligibility or understanding. So you want to avoid the ums and the ahs and the pauses and the fillers, the so's, like whatever. You want to focus on what you want to say. And it's really important to just keep practicing that and to not edit yourself on the fly. What it does is it actually turns your brain off of editing mode. I kind of compare it to driving a car. If you're stepping on the accelerator, you can't also be tapping the brake. You got to just drive. So tapping the brake is like when you stop and edit your own speech, and it ruins the entire flow. It brought you right back down to a lower speed. You want to get up to speed. So practice that. Excuse me. Another question. Teleprompter or not teleprompter? Okay, so basically the question is, should I use a teleprompter or should I just try to wing it? I think a teleprompter is fine for specific things. I think you should try both, because having a teleprompter, reading from a teleprompter is its own kind of skill. So it's not as easy as you think. Your eyes kind of move around, you can see the screen, you can see people reading. So you want to get comfortable and practice that as well. But sometimes you lose the flow or the organic nature of speaking naturally. It really depends on how much time and money you've invested in it. If you need the words to be specific, then obviously use a teleprompter or memorize it. But I think it's better for you to practice using a teleprompter just like you would practice winging it. So there's not a clear answer there, unfortunately. Any other questions? We're about to wrap up here. I want to say the timing, we're a little bit early, which I like to be early. Other questions? It can be anything that you want to ask. It can be about the rest of the presentation. We're going to go through the summary here. These are the things that I want you to do. So in summary, the takeaways for you are to answer the questions that your customers are asking, but your industry isn't answering, right? They're not addressing these things. Convert the features of your products and services into benefits that are clear and compelling. So create your selling 7 videos plus the Are We a Good Fit video. So technically you're 8. So selling 7 plus 1. And then use video as a practice for refining your content. So videotape yourself practicing delivering your pitch. The benefit of doing this as well and of recording it is that even if you mess up and you don't use the video, you're refining what the message is going to be, and you can always have that transcribed through Rev, or even Premiere does it natively, and get captions or get the text, and you can edit that text into your website. You can actually start to think of the copywriting that should be on your website or your email campaigns or whatever. But yeah, get comfortable being in front of the camera. Of all the things I mentioned, right, the lights, the camera, and the audio, try to find some space in your office or in your place where you can keep that consistently set up. So you can sculpt it the way you want. So it's a little bit easy for me because I really don't have a lot of setup. My setup is really, really basic. I'm basically, sitting on this elevated couch, and I've got the stand from it is where I can host the computer. And then the background is already basically dressed and the window is right here. So assuming I'm not presenting at night, I don't really need to worry so much. Same thing for you, whatever time you're going to do it, keep it somewhat consistent. If you have a north facing window, it's going to be a huge benefit to you because that light's not going to change as dramatically. So think about how you can create turnkey setups. The books I mentioned, I want to reiterate, are They Ask, You Answer. It's available as an audiobook. You can get it for free through Hoopla or Overdrive or one of those library apps. And then the other I'd recommend is How to Build a Story Brand by Donald Miller. And if you haven't read it, it's basically shows you how to speak in the language that would resonate with a customer. Oftentimes we get this very preachy approach of, I'm witty and I've got this like clever response, but really all you're doing is selling, toiletries or something. Like, don't make it complex, make it clear for them. And then you can add the other stuff on top of it of like, well, why your toiletries over someone else's? There's a very clear reason, but I think sometimes we get too in our heads that we got to make our business more impressive than it needs to be. So it's a really great book, and he's got a lot of very tactical things you can do about building funnels. But those